finances, with relationships, a whole lot of different things. But then at the same time, there's probably those people that even though they believe in miracles, they're standing back at the same time saying, but you know what? Miracles never happen to me. Why don't miracles ever happen to me? I mean, it seems like they happen to this person and that person. And listen, that person over there really doesn't deserve a miracle, but for some reason they got a miracle. But yet here I am. I go to church. I do these things, read my Bible, do all this stuff. I've had a relationship with Jesus Christ for years and years and years and years and years. I've done all the things right, question, whatever, and all of a sudden we're standing back going, but you know what? A miracle never happens to me. I prayed for my mom, I prayed for my dad, I prayed for my husband, I prayed for my family member that they would be healed of cancer, whatever else it may have been, and did not get that miracle. I prayed for finances in my family, finances for somebody else, and it never happened. Why do miracles, why is it when I pray, why is it when I ask God to give me a miracle that I just never get one? Miracles never, ever, ever happen to me. Of course, we're looking for the big things. The small things, really, we just kind of pass by. But great to see you this morning as Emily prayed. Glad that you decided to get out of bed. And hopefully, you remember to set your clock ahead 1 hour. And I would encourage you, if you're already missing that hour, please don't do it during the sermon. That would be kind of rude. And besides that, I'd probably call your name out. And before we did that, we would take a picture of you sleeping in church. And then it would be on the screen next Sunday morning. So just want you to know that. Not that we would ever do that. Yeah, we would. All right? So, but you don't look too bad for missing an hour's worth of sleep. Glad you're here. And by the way, you'll get an hour back on November the 6th, just in case you want to know, when the regular time, the abnormal time. I don't know why we just don't leave it at the time it's at. I like this time of year, and where it's, light later and do some kind of things. But, at least you have something to look forward to on November the 6th. Today we're going to be starting a new sermon series, as we've already pointed out. It's entitled When Pigs Fly. And there may be some of us here today that know when this saying is actually used. We're old enough to know it, probably have used it once or twice. But then again, there are some of you that have never heard it before, and you're looking at the screen going, that is the goofiest thing I've ever seen in my life. What in the world? Why would you preach a sermon on when pigs fly? Well, just because it got your attention and you're awake, and you're saying, okay, now we want to see what he pulls out of the hat for this. All right? For those of you that don't know, here's how it can be used. First of all, you must realize that this is basically a sarcastic phrase that people use when they know or they believe that something is not going to happen, especially when talking about something good happening to them, as in a miracle. All right? A miracle, probably will not happen to me only when pigs fly. Only when pigs fly will a miracle happen to me. All right? If you need to see how this will be used, there's this guy, that hasn't asked this girl out for over 7 years. Hasn't asked any girl out for over 7 years. He just didn't want to, whatever. And all of a sudden he comes to you and he tells you that, hey, he's actually thinking about asking a girl out on a date. And so an appropriate response would be, you are going to ask a girl out when pigs fly. Or when pigs fly, I'll believe that you will actually even ask a girl out, meaning it is probably not going to happen. Another way it could be used is if your children come up to you and ask you if they can have another cat, or another dog, or another gerbil, or whatever else it may be. Of course, they only have 3 cats at the present time, and your response is, when pigs fly, you can have another cat. Of course, your kids are going to look at you and go, what? What? Or you can even say, bless your little old heart, there's absolutely no way on this side of heaven that you're going to get another cat. You see, what the parent is really saying is, it would take a miracle for you to get another cat, especially when you never feed or you never change the litter box for the 3 cats that you have going right now. You just don't do it. So why would we want to add 4 of it when all the work and responsibility ends up on me or on your mother? There's no way. When pigs fly, you will get another cat. And for those of you that don't know, pigs do not fly. Just thought I'd throw that out at the very beginning here for those of you that are trying to figure out how that works. So exactly, what is a miracle? What is a miracle? When you're asking what a miracle is, what is it? A basic definition, if you'd like to write it down, is this. When God in heaven intervenes on earth. When God in heaven intervenes on earth. When the all-powerful, all-knowing, ever-present God intervenes in your life, that is a miracle. That's a miracle. Now, as we get started on this sermon series, let me ask this question. All right? You don't need to raise your hand or whatever else. You can just think about it for a while to get us started. How many of you have something in your life right now, at this very moment, that's going on in your life where you would love to see God intervene on your behalf or on the behalf of someone else that you love and have been praying for a long time? I would dare say that a large majority of us this morning have someone that we would like to see God work a miracle on or for, and even including ourselves. This is what we're going to be sharing together over the next few weeks in case you want to know. If you want to write it down, if you want to come back, decide if you're not going to come back because I just really don't need that or whatever else. But anyway, next week we're going to be talking about the miracle of healing. The miracle of healing. Why does God heal some people and sometimes He doesn't? You know, that's a tough question because every day we see that. You know, we used to share prayer requests on a Wednesday night, and 9 times out of 10, those prayer requests are about somebody that needs a healing. You know, why is it God doesn't heal them? Why is it that they die? Why is it that they suffer? Why is it that they go through life having the thing that they have? We'd love to see them made whole again. The miracle of healing. Why does God heal some He doesn't? In 2 weeks, we're going to be sharing about the miracle of protection. The miracle of protection. We'll leave that to your imagination. We'll find out in a couple of weeks what that's about. And the week after that, week number 4, if we may extend some of these out, we're going to be sharing together about the miracle of provision. The miracle of provision. Today we're going to be sharing about miracles of deliverance. Miracles of deliverance. When God does miracles over the forces and powers of darkness. Could get kind of heavy. Hopefully we'll stick through and we can make some sense out of all this stuff as we share it this morning. It's been said that one of the biggest lies that the devil will attempt to get you and me to believe is that he does not exist. There's really no devil. There's no Satan. There's no place called the pit of hell. Because we shared in the last sermon series, you know, since God is good, you know, mankind is basically good, since heaven's good, then all good people should go to heaven. Of course, we found out that that is a different, there's a different way for that. And that's through the forgiveness of Jesus Christ for your sin. He wants you and me to believe that He is not a force that is fighting against the kingdom of God and the kingdom of God's truth. As we get started, we're going to take a look at what Paul says in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. It's in the New Testament, right after Galatians and right before Philippians. All right? Writing to the church at Ephesus, he said, "We are not fighting against humans. We are not fighting against humans. We are fighting against forces and authorities and against rulers of darkness and powers in the spiritual world." What this verse is saying is this. Christianity, or in other words, being a follower of Jesus Christ, it's one thing to be a Christian. It's another thing to follow Jesus Christ. Being a follower of Jesus Christ is not a playground. It's a battleground. Every morning you wake up, every night when you go to bed, Satan is out to attack you. He's out to convince you that he does not exist, that he's the way, all these kind of things. Come to my side, we'll have a blast. It'll be a playground. We must realize that the natural world that we see every day, when you walk out your door, when you watch the news, and of course the stuff that's going on in Ukraine and still talking about, well, the virus, I guess, doesn't exist anymore. You know, talking about gas prices going up and all these other things going on. It is not all that there is. You see, there's also a spiritual world. We are spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings. It's always amazing how folks that they find that are out in the middle of nowhere in Africa or some other deserted island, how they always have a god or gods that they worship. Whether it's a tree god, whether it's a fertility god, whatever else it may be, they have a god that they worship. You see, we have spiritual enemies. We are doing battle against the forces of darkness, better known as demonic forces. Now, as you may ask, what is a demon? What's a demon? You know, if you're a parent, you may raise your hand and say, "My son. He's a little demon. Buddy, I tell you what, I mean, he runs around causing more trouble than you can possibly ever imagine." But what is a demon? There are people that believe a demon is the spirit of the dead. Spirit of the dead. They say that their dear old uncle who created trouble, who was in trouble everywhere he went, that has died, is a demon. Well, let me tell you, he may have acted like a little or a big demon when he was alive, but he is not a demon. You see, a demon is not a spirit of the dead. If you want to go and study about it sometime, here's a few places that you can go to look up and do some research on what a demon is. First of all is Isaiah chapter 14. Isaiah chapter 14. Of course, the devil used to be an angel. And you can go back there and check that out in Isaiah. Then there's Revelation chapter 12. In Isaiah chapter 14, if you go back and look at it, there are some statements that Satan made, that the devil made, that said this. All right? They're called I will statements. And remember, as we go through this, Satan does not want to be like God. He wants to be God. He wants to be in charge. The I will statements. I will be like God. I will ascend to the highest place. In other words, God will be no more. I'll be number one. So God threw Satan out of heaven, and 1/3 of the angels went with him. So what we do know is this. There is one devil, and there are many demons. You see, when an angel is to God, a demon is to the devil. Does his business. There's a big difference. The big difference is that Satan cannot be everywhere at one time. He can't. You see, God is said to be omnipresent. God is everywhere at one time. When you're someplace that you know you ought not to be, and you think you're safe, you say there's no way that God would want to go in there, that God would want to be a part of that. God is there. God is everywhere at one time. So when you are being tempted, it is one of Satan's demons doing the tempting. It is probably not Satan. Satan is really going to be the one that's going to deal with the big boys. You know, somebody like a Charles Stanley or somebody else. One of the Christians that you look up to and you say there's absolutely, positively no way that I can ever be like that person. But remember, they can't do anything without God's permission. As you read throughout the Bible, you look at the book of Job, you look at some of the other stories that are there, that the demons and the devil can't do anything to you without God's permission. You see, the whole responsibility of Satan and his demons is to try and take people and keep people away from the kingdom of God. Satan does not want you to ask Christ to forgive you of your sin. In fact, he tried to get rid of Jesus. Many times, if you go through and read the story from the time he was born, you know, and then the babies that were killed after that, they sent out a thing that all the children, or boys, young men, young boys under the age of 3 were to be killed. Tried to get rid of Jesus. They didn't get him. Then he even tried to crucify him on the cross. 3 days later, he rose again from the dead. Satan tried to get even rid of Jesus. Now, sharing what we shared together, there are 2 possible mistakes that we make when it comes to demons. The first one is this, that we overemphasize demonic influence. We overemphasize demonic influence. Now, don't get me wrong. Demons do a lot of damage. They tell a lot of lies. They do keep a lot of people from forgiveness and a relationship with Jesus Christ. But there is not a demon under every rock, under every corner, waiting to pounce on you as you go to the grocery store, as you go to the ball field, wherever else it is. Probably not a demon under every rock or every corner where you are. You see, you can't blame every problem on the devil or on one of his demons. You may say, listen, I'm broke. I ain't got no money. Listen, let me share a thing with you. We've shared it before. And then we blame it on the devil because I'm broke. Unfortunately, it's not the devil's fault. It's yours. It's your fault. Because you went out and bought 3 new outfits, brought 3 new pairs of shoes, of course, to go with the outfits, accessories to go with those 3 outfits, and of course a manicure, pedicure, and of course you had to get your hair done when you didn't have the money to do those things in the first place. You just go out there and blow it, and then you come back and say, listen, I am broke. My credit cards are maxed out, all because you thought you had to have those 3 outfits, 3 pairs of shoes, of course accessories, hair done, manicure, pedicure, and anything else you could think of to do. Or maybe you have to have the latest and greatest iPhone, possibly a brand spanking new car that was way out of your price range. And of course, listen, nowadays, don't forget that trip to Disney. You know, I mean, they just opened up that new Star Wars themed hotel where it cost you over $6,000 $1,000 for your family of 4 to spend 3 days and 2 nights just to say you did it. You see, the truth is this. You can't blame every problem you have on the devil. The devil did not make you eat the whole cake. Chances are the devil did not tempt you or give you that big old piece of cake that you had that wasn't even really the whole cake. The second one is this. First one is we overemphasize the demonic influence. The second one is we underemphasize demonic influence. Well, every problem you and I have is not caused by the devil. There is a very good chance that more problems than we want to admit are caused by the forces of darkness. It's called temptation. They tempt us into doing things that we know we should not be doing because it looks so glamorous and glorious and wonderful on the outside. So what do demons do? What is their job? Here's a couple of things that they do. First of all, they tempt you and I to sin. They tempt you and I to sin. You see, they tempt you away from the will of God. Go back to the very beginning with those two people by the name of Adam and Eve. Man and woman living in the garden together. God gave them one rule. One rule. One law, and they broke it. Why? Because Satan, the serpent, showed up and said, now listen, God wouldn't really do that to you. He spent all that time creating you. In fact, Adam, if I remember right, I can't imagine how long it took him to form you out of the dirt of the ground and form it and breathe life into you, and all of a sudden you pop up, and then you had to go through surgery and have a rib removed so you can make woman, and all these things you guys have been through. And certainly God's not going to kill you, because when He stood back and He looked at you guys, He goes, "Whoa, that's really good stuff." They tempt us to sin. They tempt you and me away from the will of God, trying to get you to sin. Remember, temptation is not the sin. Sin comes when you choose to give into that temptation. Check it out, 2 Timothy chapter 2. For the sake of time, we're just going to, you can go back and read the whole chapter. All right, we're just going to share 19 through 24. All right, here it goes. But the foundation that God has laid is solid. It's built solid, not going to come apart. On it is written, the Lord knows who His people are. So everyone who worships the Lord must turn away from evil. If you are a child of God, you must turn away from evil. Why can't we? Why is it so hard? Even though we read our Bible and we go to church and we put offering in the offering plate and do all those things that people are supposed to do, we share our faith. Why is it so hard? Because we still fall into the temptation of sin. Verse 20, and a large house and dishes are made of gold or silver, while others are made of wood or clay. Some of these are special and others are not. That's also how it is with people. The ones who stop doing evil and make themselves pure will become special. But it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to do what's right, especially when we look and we say, well, he's doing it and she's doing it, and it doesn't seem to be very bad on them. I mean, after all, which one time going to hurt? I'll never get caught. Mom and Dad will never find out. Husband or wife will never find out. Their lives will be holy and pleasing to their master, and they will be able to do all kinds of good things. Is that the desire of your heart, to make your master, excited about what you're doing? And then in verse 22 it says, run from temptations that capture young people. But it doesn't just capture young people, it captures old people. It captures middle-aged people. It captures moms and dads and children in high school and elementary school. It tempts all of us. And it says, run from temptations that capture young people. Always, I want you to listen to this. This is really cool. Always do the what? Right thing. You must be kidding. Really? Do you know how much fun they're going to make of me? You're just a goody two-shoes. You always do what's right. Always do the right thing. Be faithful, loving, and easy to get along with. Worship with people whose hearts are pure. Stay away from stupid and senseless arguments. Well, if we got rid of some of them things, we'd be absolutely bored stiff, wouldn't we? If we didn't have stupid arguments with people, man, just think how boring life would be. They always lead to what? Trouble. And God's servants must not be troublemakers. They must be kind to everyone, and they must be good teachers and very patient. I love that last one. Patient. I'll show you patience. What the demons do is they try to convince you that they care about you and that you deserve it. I mean, I can't think of anybody else that needs this, deserves this more than you do. I mean, you do. You're a special person. They tell you that it's okay for you to watch it. It's okay for you to touch it and smoke it and shoot it and be a part of it. Because after all, you deserve it. You're a wonderful, wonderful individual. After all, it's no big deal. It's nobody's business to tell you how to live your life. Your life is your choice. You're not hurting anybody. And then when you do sin, they really turn on the heat. Hey, listen. God will never love you now. You've sinned. You're a sinner. You're dirty now. God will never love you. God can't use you anymore. Your life is ruined. You are trash. You are worthless. Why? Because they've convinced you that when you sin, especially if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, all those things, you're worthless, you're trash, your life is ruined, God will never be able to use you again. And the second thing they do is they tempt you. As the devil lays traps and the demons try to take you away from serving God or from God's will for your life, check out what it says in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. It says this: God's Spirit clearly says, God's Spirit, He doesn't just say it, He clearly says it, that in the last days, I want you to listen, because here we are on March the 13th of 2022, and some of the stuff that's going on, listen to this verse right here. This was written 5 or 6 days ago. No, a long time ago. Right? God's Spirit clearly says that in the last days, many people will turn from their faith. Stop going to church, stop sharing their faith, all those kind of things. I mean, it's just there. They will be fooled by evil spirits and by teachings that come from demons. They will also be fooled by the false claims of liars whose conscience they have lost all feeling. These liars will forbid people to marry or to eat certain foods. There's a good chance that some of you here know someone like this, but then unfortunately some of you might be somebody like this. You may be asking, what do you mean? There was a time when you were walking with God. You're excited about your relationship with Jesus Christ. There wasn't a Sunday that you missed. There wasn't a time during the day that you didn't think about God, or you were spending time with God, or you looked forward to that. But then deceiving spirits led you away from the truth of the gospel. And they led you and to a lot of other false doctrines and beliefs. For example, it really doesn't matter what you believe. After all roads lead to God. And so you begin searching, translated, you translate that and you think about that and it says, listen around, look around, check out other things, and take what works for you. Take a little bit of Buddhism, take a little bit of New Age belief, toss in a little bit of Christianity, and don't forget to sprinkle in a little witchcraft by all means. Don't forget to sweeten the dish with a little bit of the feel-good religion as well, because after all, there's days you're just going to need that. So we take all this stuff that's out there and we grab what we want. Call it the Golden Corral religion. We just go take a little bit about what you want. After all, what will it matter, because all roads lead to God? So certainly Buddhism will do it, witchcraft. I mean, the more I get, the better my chances are of going to heaven. And to your surprise, you had a pure faith, a close relationship with God. All the deception and lies of Satan and his demons have led you away to some place you don't need to be. To some place where you weren't supposed to be. Or even to a place you're having too much fun and you don't want to leave. Because after all, I mean, why in the world would I want to go to church where it's boring and all those kinds of things that are going on? Listen to a guy stand up and talk for a few, 3 or 4 hours it seems like, all that kinds of stuff. Sermons. Why do I have to do all that kinds of stuff? When I'm out there in the world, I'm fishing, it's fun. I'm shopping, it's fun. I'm on vacation, it's fun. I mean, I can just stay at home in bed, it's fun. I can go play golf. Whatever else it may be, it's fun. Why in the world would I want to go back to that? Then there's a third thing they will do. They're going to tempt you and lure you in. They're going to tempt you and lure you in. Hey, after all, that's what fishing's all about. You go fishing, you just don't go out there with a pole and with some string on it and a hook on it and throw it in and hope to catch fish. You got to have something that's going to lure them in. What's going to look good to them? You may try a worm, a purple worm, a green worm, a black worm. Then you go to a top plug. Then you go to something else, a popper, or what else, something that dives deep or something that dives shallow, or certain places. You got to lure them in, lure them over to grab onto that hook, and pretty soon they're caught. And when that happens, it finally inflicts pain and suffering on you and others that you used to love and care for because of you. You turn. You're different. Matthew chapter 17, verses 14 through 18 said this. Jesus and his disciples returned to the crowd. A man knelt in front of him and said, Lord, have pity on my son. Have pity on my son. He had a bad case of epilepsy and often falls into a fire or into water. I brought him to your disciples, but none of them can heal him. Jesus said, you people are too stubborn to have faith. How much faith do you have in those miracles? How much longer must I be with you? Why do I have to put up with you? Bring the boy here. So the man goes and gets his son, who they believe it's epilepsy. He's having twitches and seizures and different kinds of things, falling into fires, hurting himself, beating himself